Hey, before we get into today's episode, if you're a podcast host or guest, listen up. I've produced over 200 podcast episodes and guested on 50 podcasts just in 2025 alone. And let me tell you, nothing grows your audience or builds trust faster than being in front of the right listeners. That's why I created my podcast tour offer. I'll help you map out your topics, strategize your message, and find you the most aligned podcasts and audiences to get you and your business in front of. So if you've ever thought, I just wish more eyes were on my work, this is your sign. Let's get you on a podcast tour. You can find all the details in the show notes. Just look for podcast tour. Now let's dive into today's episode. Okay, today's guest is all about helping entrepreneurs stop spinning and start building. Michelle DeNio is a business strategist and growth advisor for service-based entrepreneurs, especially for those neurodivergent and ADHD business owners. She's the creator of the Focused Visionary Accelerator and the host of the Real Truth About Business podcast. With over 15 years of business operations, Michelle is known for turning big ideas into clear, profitable action plans. If you're someone with a lot of vision, but sometimes too many directions, this conversation is for you. So buckle up, get your pen and paper out. Michelle, I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. We've been chatting for so long, and it's an honor to be on your show.
Thank you. Yeah, I know that the listeners are going to get so much from you with your experience and from what I know of you. So I'm pumped for us to dive in. I introduced you, but how do you describe what you do and who you help?
Yeah, I think the easiest way for me to describe the way I work with clients is really in the sense of helping them to stop doing all of the things, right? Like that's really my big goal, is stop doing all of the things and let's look at what's actually working in your business and create a customized strategy that is rooted in data and facts and alignment to keep you from getting into burnout from a place of strategic growth and not just doing things for the sake of doing or because somebody else said you should do this.
That speaks to my soul. I love it. And I like that you emphasize your business and customizing that, because there isn't, as we know, one size fits all to this entrepreneurship life. So how did you get here? How was your business born? Were you always an entrepreneur?
I mean, yes and no. I've always believed that there's a million ways to make money in this world, and I was on a mission to find all of them, right? Even if I made like 2 cents from each one, whatever. But I've always been fascinated by the amount of ways that you can make money in this world. But truly my entrepreneurial journey in this phase that it is now as a business strategist kind of happened through, I don't believe in accidents, but it was divine intervention, I suppose. We moved from upstate New York to Florida, and I went from being like top executive in my career, really at the top of my game, to like literally bottom of the barrel down here, and went from, just basically glorified data entry, and nothing against data entry. But when I had all of these years of experience, it was like mind numbing. And I was like, I did not work this hard for this to be where my career ends. I'm not doing this. Anyways, I just started doing a ton of networking, having a ton of conversations, basically doing a ton of free consulting. And finally, somebody said, I don't understand why you don't charge me for your time. And that's where it was born.
Oh my gosh. It's so like the world really was like, no, you're doing this, Michelle. This is happening. Yeah. Okay. First question then, so that we can all clarify, how is being busy different than being strategic? Because I know sometimes busy feels productive and productive can feel good. So let's clarify that difference.
For me, the difference is busy and or strategic. Strategic moves the needle. Busy can just feel like getting things done, right? And I'm all for a good, busy, productive day, checking the things off the list and checking all those boxes. But really for me, it's about being strategic in like, what boxes do we actually need to check, right? Like, what are the things that are actually going to drive business? What things are actually going to move the needle? And you really can't do that without looking and understanding what the strategy is behind it. And so I think for me, the easiest differentiator is just to simply pause and go, why am I doing this? When you can just ask yourself that quick question of like, but why am I doing this? What is the goal here? What am I hoping to achieve by checking this box? Or what is the purpose of it, right? Like if there's no next step, like if you can't answer that question, then it's likely it's busy work.
That's a good point. I catch myself the most when life cuts me short on time, sick kids or things like that. And you're like, okay, what actually has to get done? And then that's when I get caught, like when life makes me.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like the vacation mode hustle, right? Like think about it the day before you go on vacation, the amount of things that you can like bang out. And really, you just also don't need to do all the things because it's like, it'll be there when we get back.
Absolutely. Okay. Let's say someone has a big idea then. First, how do you advise or how do you help your clients decide if it's something they should actually act on?
To me, it all comes down to the question of what's the goal? What is the goal? What are we trying to achieve with this, right? Like, what is this big idea and what's it going to do for your business, right? And I do believe that there are some ideas that are just like soul fulfilling, right? Like launched out a small ticket community last year. And it was really just from a place of like, I need to have fun in my business. I don't know what it's going to look like. It's not a revenue drive. I mean, it brings in revenue, but it's minimal, right? But it was really more from just a place of like, I need to be surrounded by people. So there's always a purpose. But if you can't answer that question of why are we doing this? What is the goal? What are we hoping to achieve with this? Then I often will say like, let's put it on pause. The other thing I think that's really helpful with a big idea is to just let it sit. We are typically, especially creative entrepreneurs, we are extremely impulsive. I spent the first half of my business so far, being extremely impulsive and doing and creating. Now I just simply go, well, that's a cool idea. And let me see if I still like the idea in the morning, because most of the time I don't, and if you can just give yourself the permission or the space or the reminder to pause and say like, let's just let this idea sit and come back to it. That's usually a good tell. If the idea is still on your mind, then we execute. If it's not, then it was just a fun idea.
No, I like that gauge, and just don't take immediate action. See if we wake up and we feel the same way. Okay. So let's say then it is on our mind and we do want to execute it. We've decided that. What do you suggest for the first steps in tackling it and executing it? How does somebody execute?
I try to look at it from breaking it down into like the most micro action steps possible. A literal list of every single thing that needs to be done, even though that can feel overwhelming, but it breaks it down into small tasks. So let's say it's a new lead magnet. Okay, what's the name? How are you going to deliver it? What needs to be created? Is it a PDF? And on the PDF, what information do you need? Do you need to record a video, right? Like really, truly breaking it down. Like, where are you going to host it? How are you going to deliver it? Is it going to be on ConvertKit, right? Like whatever it is, or Kit, breaking it down to really look at like, what are all of the action steps that are required, but also to what is the next step with this said thing, right? Like if you're creating it, what is the next step? Where is it going to go? What do people do with it from this point? It's not everything is that big of a creation, right? Like if you want to create a new one-to-one offer, that could simply just be setting up a calendar appointment with a payment link to it and putting it out there, right? So it just depends on the idea of what it is and where you want to go with it. Does it need a beta run? Do you want testers? Do you not want testers? Whatever that looks like, but really just sitting down and answering those questions of what do I need to do to actually accomplish this? And I'm not a big fan of creating everything from perfection without selling it. So for me, I'm always going to say sell it first, especially if it's something that is to be sold. Sell first, create later. Get proof of concept, get some interest into it before you spend all of your time creating something that may or may not sell.
Okay. Can you give an example for someone that's like, I don't know what that means. What do you want me to do? You want me to have a class and hit Zoom and hit record and then, can you give an example of someone can do? I was
just actually talking to somebody yesterday on Instagram about this. So she has this new idea for a program. She's kind of maxed out one-to-one, right? And she's exploring options for one-to-many. And she wanted to create this whole course and create a program. And she had it like all in her head. And she's got a little one, an infant at home. He's, newborn. I said to her, what if you just ran it live first instead of trying to create this course? What if you just put it out there? All these clients are telling you they're interested in this, or you have people saying you're interested. So what I mean by that is just simply reaching out to them and saying, hey, Candace, you mentioned that you might be interested if I created this said thing. I'm thinking about doing it this way. It's going to be a 6-week cohort. We'll meet once a week, blah, blah, blah. Here's what it is. Are you interested? See if you can get some yeses, and have a dollar amount put to it. It can be done too, just on a simple Google Doc. I'm a huge fan of just like putting an idea on a Google Doc and sending somebody a Google, the file and asking them like, hey, take a look at this. See, let me know if you're interested. But that's what I mean by sell it first. Like get some buy-in first. And then again, either run it live, or if you don't want to run it live, you can still create it like 1 week at a time. Instead of creating all 6 weeks, create it 1 week at a time, because especially if it's brand new and you've got people in there, they may ask questions or they may need the content to go a completely different way than what you had in your head. So I just think it's so helpful to do it that way, especially for anything that you're trying to create more on like a passive or like a one-to-many style.
That makes perfect sense. This kind kind of leads into growing a business. So what do you find is sometimes the real reason that owners stop growing, even when they're showing up? Seems like they're doing all the things right. Is there common things that you see that stunts that growth?
Yeah, a couple things. So first and foremost, a lot of times it's an alignment issue. Like it's just physically not possible. The math doesn't math. The hours don't add up, right? Like I see a lot of people try to grow and try to scale without taking into consideration their true capacity. And what I mean by that is how many hours you have available. I call it kind of the grind versus the goal, taking into consideration what is part of your grind, right? So if you only have 15 hours a week to work because you have kids and all the things, right? And you have one-to-one clients and coaching calls and you're in a mastermind and you're blah, 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 whatever it is, you're committed to the grind of 7 hours of that or 8 hours of that. That leaves 7 hours a week to scale, right? But that includes your admin time, that includes your marketing time, right? Like that includes all of these things. And then you're trying to throw clients on there and you need 10 clients, but you only have 7 hours and each client requires an hour a week. It's not possible, right? So there's usually some alignment issue as people start to grow, as people start to scale, there's a timing issue and it just comes into capacity. So you've got to look at like, do I need to give up something? Where am I spending my time? That I had somebody just recently who was committed to something and she was spending like 3 hours a week attending this thing. And I was like, but what are we gaining from it? Like, what's the goal? But it was okay to attend because she wasn't busy. But now that she's busy, it's like, that's got to go. That's 3 hours of billable, time that you could put a paid client in there. That's number one. And number two, another big thing that I see is the shift from operator or just mindset of like, well, I'm just a podcast guesting coach, or I'm just a website designer. I'm just a like that freelancer or just this, or I'm this versus no, I'm Michelle. I own my own business and I offer consulting services, right? Like just that shift from operator of like, I have a skill and I'm getting paid for it to no, I'm a business owner and these are the services we offer. And when you can make that shift and step into that role a little bit and putting that CEO hat on, you start to kind of look differently at your business. You can start to make proactive decisions. You can start to look and see what's actually working, what's not working. And so you're not just reacting to everything that's coming your way. You're a little bit more proactive. And a lot of people struggle to make that switch. And I get it because they've never had to, right? They've never had to. So why would that be easy for them?
Absolutely. It's like I tell people that I'm coaching, helping their strategy of like speaking on a podcast. Don't go on and say, well, I used to this and that. And this is a lesson I learned when people would ask me, what do you do now? I'd say, I used to be a teacher because it's just an easy answer. And then it's like, no, then all I was getting was, school calling me up saying, can you get in here? We need a sub. And I'm like, no. So I had to start talking in that present tense and or future tense. If it doesn't feel like it's real yet, I can relate to that so much. And the time thing too. Is it because we're so close to ourselves that we just think we have all this time? It took me having a coach to say, Candace, your working hours are like 10 to 2. Being that I have 3 young kids and that's my top priority and I want to be available and not really working when they're around if I don't have to. It took her kind of calling me out like, it's like 10 to 2. We don't have this time that you're thinking. So do you think it's because we're so close to it or just like in it and making it happen that we just don't realize the true amount of working time we actually have?
I think there's that, but I also think it's just different, right? Like you go into a job and you have your set hours and you have your job and you do your thing and it's kind of like this everyday grind or whatever. And so you get kind of caught up in that same grind of doing all of those things. But what you don't also take into consideration is the admin time, the client communication time, the marketing time, right? Like there's so many other things. It's not just the execution of the job per se. It's all of these other pieces that have to go into it. And I also think because we do so much from our phones, like I know that I talk to my clients way more than I account and credit for, because I can shoot a quick text it off to them. I can WhatsApp them. I can send a voice memo. So it doesn't feel like I'm putting in all of those hours. I think for the most part is we just honestly don't ever really do a time audit and really sit. And until again, something is forced upon you, like you have sick kids or you're wanting to take a vacation or you sign up for a class that you weren't planning on, you know what I mean? Just different things. And then all of a sudden it's like, I got to get serious about this. But I do think when we first start out, because we were so used to, especially those that are coming from a job, you're so used to having set schedule, being told what to do. And so then you step into this role of entrepreneurship. It's like, well, what do I do? Well, I can do it all and I can do everything. And I just have all of these hours. And I also just think people don't take time to sit down and really look at their pricing. Pricing is just somebody else is charging $9.97 for this. That sounds like a good price, right? And there's just not a lot of strategy put behind that. And so people come up short on their goals and don't really take the time to look at and think it's a time issue. They think they need to work more when it's really just that they were not in alignment in the first place.
Yeah. Okay. Let's add in data to this topic because I think that goes along with decision making. And I know that you are very data driven without being that like very cold corporate-y way, which I like. But how does a business owner start to use data in making decisions and not losing that alignment and staying out of burnout like we talked about? How do we bring that into the conversation?
Data to me is just information, right? And it's not all numbers. When people hear data, they think spreadsheets, they think numbers, they think analyzation, right? Data analysts, they think all of that. But really, if I asked you right now, Candace, think about your last client that you just onboarded. Do you know where they came from?
I think they said Instagram because it's a question on my form that they intake.
Okay, that's data, right?
Yep.
Like it right there is just simple data. And that's what I try to infuse into my clients is that where did they come from? If you track nothing else in your business, the number one piece of data that you could track is where did they come from, right? If you know where your clients are coming from, you can do more of it, right? You know that you and I met because I, A, was following you on Threads, B, I heard you on a podcast, right? Data, that's information telling you that what you are doing is working, right? And so you might not go spend time on LinkedIn. It would be like, why are you spending all your time on LinkedIn when most of your clients are coming in through podcast casting, Threads, or Instagram, right? You're not going to go and put your time into LinkedIn. And that's all I'm trying to help people really understand is that the data tells you exactly what is working in your business. So looking at just different points along the way of like understanding even your marketing and your emails, of just looking at it and seeing like who's opening your emails, who's clicking them. That's all data. What conversations are you having? What questions do you answer over and over and over with your clients? That's data, right? Like that gives you information. Yes, I want you to look at revenue and profit and all of that. There's always going to be, numerical data points because business is a game of numbers, whether people want to admit it or not. It is. But when you start to look at data and you stop being intimidated by it, it's actually, to me, and I think most of my clients would agree, like it's actually fascinating. Most of the time when I have my clients start looking at it, they immediately feel like, oh my gosh, this pressure. Like there's like this immediate sigh of relief. The shoulders drop of like, you mean I don't have to show up on LinkedIn? Well, no, nobody's coming from LinkedIn. Like why, you know what I mean? Like, and so, but there's all this programming of like, you've got to be here. If you're trying to attract executive level clients, you have to be there. Not necessarily. That may work for some people. But for other people, they meet all of their executive clients through referrals or whatever, just word of mouth, networking, etc. So I look at it through that lens of what information can I gain from this? And with it, what can I stop doing?
It's the stop doing part that a lot of us skip. It's why I went on a podcast tour last year for myself because I was like, why am I posting on LinkedIn all the time? I hate it. Nobody's coming from here. I like podcasting. Let's lean into that. I don't want to feel like I have to show up on social media every day. So to me, yeah, it's using that information. I suppose it's not necessarily numbers, but it's also just knowing that about myself. And I'm much more likely to show up to a podcast interview than I am to, show up on, I'm consistent on social media because I make myself be consistent on social media. I'd rather do this. So I guess that's information and data as well.
There is. And there's also like the place of like, where can you maintain consistency, right? And that looks like with your offers, that looks like in your social media. Another data point that I use a lot with my clients is like, what offer sells with ease? In the sense that I mean of like, you can talk about it so passionately and it flows out of your head. And when people hear you talk about it, it's like, oh my gosh, she's so passionate about this. Like you love this offer, right? We all have those offers that just sell with such ease. And then we also have the offer where it's like, well, for me, that's like my big longer term 6-month 1-to-1. I do it, but I take a very limited number of them because I don't like my calendar full, right? And so it's not one I talk about all the time, where if you get me talking about any of my other programs, it's easy. And so that's the other thing, is like that information tells you like maybe you're trying to sell an offer that is just, again, out of alignment, or it's not one that you're interested in really selling. And so that's why it's not selling. Use the information that your business is giving you to make those decisions.
Okay, this next question is more so for myself, but I think because I want to know it, then other people will probably want to know it too. But you have a free resource that you're going to share with us, and it's your email newsletter, and it's called the CEO Power Move of the Week, right?
Well, it's the Sunday morning brew, but it includes a CEO Power Move of the Week.
Okay. Yeah. And so you decided in 2024 that you were going to give a free resource away every week. And that's what this is now, like a library of it, right? I want to know, what did you learn? One, from just having to create that much, free resources and make that many things or share that many things, but that commitment to stick through that for the whole year. What did you even learn from that? Not to mention that I'm going to link that in the show notes, and that's going to be great for people to go look at, but I just want to know the whole process. Like what was that like?
So it took me forever to get into email marketing. It's the one thing, like, how people always ask you, like, what's the one piece of advice you would give your younger business self? Is email marketing would definitely be one of the ones, I would get into earlier. So I finally decided what I wanted to call my newsletter. I wanted it to be like the Sunday morning, like you get up, you grab your cup of coffee, you grab the paper, like the old, you know what I mean? Like your parents used to grab the paper. And that was kind of how I viewed my newsletter. Get up, read it, like get something out of it and whatever. And then in 2024, I got kind of just to this point of like, I'm so sick of promoting lead magnets, like, because I just think lead magnets have a time and a place. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, you know what I mean? And so I was like, I already am sending my newsletter every single week. Why not just make that my lead magnet? And in it, I will create, as the year goes on, I will create this massive resource library that will then become my lead magnet. And a lot of it was content that I had already created because, we've created so many things. It's not like any of us have never created a lead magnet. We haven't created this training, that training, this one, whatever. And I had just archives and archives full of things that were just things that I created that were of high value, that were just literally sitting there getting, dusty. And I was like, no, people need to see this stuff. I spent the time on it. You might do it once and you get great reviews, and it's like, where does it go then? So I just started putting out a free resource every single week. Some of them were brand new and I created them off the cuff. Some of them were old resources that I had created in years past. Some of them, the branding was off, like from my very first branding, but it didn't matter because to me, the information was still relevant. I did have, I think, 4 or 5 weeks where other people contributed resources to the library, but most of them, I would say almost like 40 something of them are ones that I had either created or in the past or for that specific, and they ranged. I mean, sometimes it was just simply a video of a setup I had created on Trello for podcast guesting and how to record what you were, or just all speaking in general, stuff like that, and giving the template for it or something like that. So it was either something I was using in my business, but anyway, yeah, I love it. And I actually love that, it's there now and it's created, and anybody that opts into my newsletter, even up to this point, so we're in 2026, that was created in 2024, they get access to that resource library. I refer back to it all the time because it's like when I have a client or anything, I'm just like, oh, you know what? I've got a resource for that. Let me grab it. It was just a fun way to create this massive library of resources for clients and whoever.
So good. And it probably saves you a lot of time now because you can refer people to that, or you can just grab it quick versus answering at length a question that you get on repeat. Okay. Is there anything that you want to make sure to add before we wrap up?
I'll leave them with my little one-liner of just remember that every strategy works, but they're not all going to work for you. And when you can remember that, you can look at things through a lens of, that's cool. That's working for Candace. I'm not sure that's going to work for me, but that's okay, right? Like, because there's another strategy out there that's going to work better for you. They all work. There's gurus and data out there that supports every single one of them and can prove that they all work. So you just have to find the one that works for you.
I wholeheartedly agree. And that's a perfect way to end on this. Yes. Give yourself permission to believe that statement too. Okay. Where can we connect with you on Socials online, where's the best place?
Threads is for sure the best place. I don't hang out much on Instagram, but I do because it's attached to Threads from that perspective. So Threads, Instagram, and I actually still hang out quite a bit on Facebook. I still love it over there. I'm an OG, I'm old. So yeah, Facebook is still there, or my website, my email list.
I'm going to have everything linked. Make sure you go get on our email newsletter so that you can get access to that resource library. And just thanks for this conversation. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I look forward to guesting and doing more with you as well.
Yeah, me too. Hey, before you go, if you've ever wished podcast guesting or hosting felt a little easier, you're going to love this. I started a free podcast matchmaking community where hosts and guests can actually connect, swap shows, and find aligned conversations without all the cold pitching and chaos. It's totally free, it's super fun, and it's growing every day. So whether you're looking to grow your audience, get in front of the right people, or just finally get your message out there, come join us. You can find the link in the show notes to join the community.